Hey, I'm Parker. I'm on 9364C. This is our robot explanation video. A lot of people asked, why don't we have a shooter, stuff like that. And I'll kind of just cover that today. If you notice anything that looks like really jank or broken, just know TSA really damaged our robot a lot on the plane flight home, which is unfortunate, but we will be rebuilding. We'll get a new robot. Nothing to worry about. So the main focus behind this robot was not match loading, but more of just quick, fast match play. We wanted to go simple. We knew we didn't want to focus our whole efforts on making it into the goals. So we kind of just threw it all together and focused on driving and programming the autons. To get into it, I'll kind of just explain how the match loading was planned out. So we figured that just placing the match loads into the field was the easiest way. You're limited by how fast you can move your hands, how fast you can place them in. We did ways to speed that up, like getting football gloves, stuff like that. A lot of teams have done that. So obviously you can't just place it directly into the field. So we came up with this easy design concept. We got the idea from our first robot, which was a flywheel. It did not work great. It wasn't very consistent, but we realized that you could kind of just roll them over to the field and kind of push them all across in one move. So the idea was we'd start out the match right here, and then we would have two people just set the tri balls in there, and then the robot just outtakes them and kind of spits them across here. They kind of build up. We can do it roughly in 13 seconds in practice, and then drive across and kind of push them all the way back to that side, and then push them into the goal from there. All the goals were pretty loose, so we were able to kind of just easily push through that side, which was really nice, and you can see us, we did pretty well with that. The problem is that a lot of the tri balls get kind of left over here, and other teams will go in through this other end and kind of mess and interfere. But it worked well, and it didn't happen as much as we expected. So next up is the arm mechanism. So we knew that we didn't want to use up a motor on shooting, so we used it for hanging and kind of some other smaller tasks. So we have these thin pieces of Lexan that kind of curve up and over, and it allowed us to slip right onto the pole and kind of slide the robot into place around this little groove here, and then it will slide into place. And then to keep it from falling once the driver control period ends, we have this locking mechanism right here. So we have this piece of yarn that leads to this ratcheting piece here. So when the barrier slides, or the bar slides from here up, it tensions it, and you can see it locks right into place and holds us for the rest of the match till the match is scored, whatever. And so we knew we didn't want to just waste that motor just on hanging, especially when you don't always need to hang. And there was still some other stuff we needed to do, for the 1 point, such as removing the tri-ball from the zone. Right? It's an important part of the 1 point. We knew that we needed to make this more consistent than the shot would ever be, because you can usually depend on your partner getting the shot in. So on our lift mechanism, we made sure that we're able to move a complete, or over 180 degrees. And we have this bar. It has a slight bit of bending, so when it reaches this point about here, it pops out, and then back up, behind the bar, and then just drive forward. It works pretty well. It was a great design, and it worked for us, but it's important that the tribal is all the way forward against the barrier and not all the way in the back where you can't reach it. And that's something we kind of failed to do in a few matches, or forgot to set up correctly. Also with the arm, the blocking mechanism, that was a big part of the lift that we knew we wanted to go and do. I was part of Flapjack for the robot in 3 days for Why Not, and we realized there that blocking was really important, especially when a lot of teams, or most of teams, match load by shooting. So having a really tall blocking mechanism was important to us, and it only helped that we could kind of bend over another robot, kind of encase them here. So this would be really effective against teams that match it really quickly or something like that. Definitely would recommend, if you have the room, resources, etc., to build a blocker. Blockers are really effective. One of the more interesting parts of our robot was our passive shooting mechanism. I can demonstrate real quick. So another task that we had tied to the lifting mechanism was our passive one-shot device. I say passive, but it's motorized, or it's used by the lift. So we have this hinged standoff here. It's banded upwards, and it's sat behind this 3x piece here. So we have the bands crossed here, pulling back, push down. It's relatively simple, and then we have our locking gauge right here. Tribal sits here. And so when the lift moves down, it releases the locking mechanism. It allows for the band to get slipped off, and it shoots. It was a bit of a struggle. Shooting, you kind of have to get perfect in the goal, and having just a band shoot isn't all that consistent. Having a mechanical, like slingshot, or something other than a band would be a lot more beneficial if you plan on building something like this. But if you hit like right here, it bounces off. If you hit the ground, it bounces up and over. You have to hit dead center into the goal. And that's kind of what made the shot inconsistent, because the band can have some variance in tension, based on how you hit it. I wouldn't recommend going with the band for your passive shot if you were to do one. I kind of want to explain what happened. So in the tournament, we didn't rank so well. We ended up going 5-3, I think. And like I mentioned earlier, teams were able to go in here and kind of mess with us. That was a big problem. Our win points didn't work very well. We only ended up getting 2. And as far as what happened in eliminations, we paired with Ace Robotics, and in quarterfinals, we were scoring a tri-ball, something like this. And you might notice we have these wedges on the front of our intake. That's what allows us to ride over the goal and push in the tri-balls. It was very intentional. However, you see, it's never happened in practice. We've done over 5 scrimmages, but it can't physically get stuck unless what happened in the match is if we're pushed really hard, then we get stuck, and that's kind of what happened. We're off the ground here,